Hello. We should be recording. Does everybody see a record on your?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to participate in the presentation for the SIAP Task 2, and it is about how to improve the school culture using the school's data. That includes the background information of the school and community, some of the issues for attendance, discipline, some of our testing results and the benefits of the tests and areas that we have for growth. The project 2 includes a visual display. So that's what you're going to see first is a visual display. And I would encourage you to interact as you see fit. We all are, except for myself, and I can mute myself in a few minutes. But we are all muted, so once you want to speak, I'd like to be able to hear what you think. If you will unmute so that we'll be able to hear you. I'm going to go over here and to share the visual with you. Tell me if you see it.
Yes, you're there.
Okay, do you see
the PowerPoint?
Biscadios. Let's go backwards. Okay, so the title of this visual is Improving Educational Performance. What I realized from looking through the South Carolina report card, a couple versions of advanced ed, is that academically I think that we do pretty well, but I think some of our deficiencies are in other areas. And if we could improve some of the other areas, I believe that professionally we would feel more valued, a little bit more empowered. I think some of the organization and communication efforts being made through the faculty could also extend to how we feel about what we do every day. Again, extending to academic performance for students. So that's kind of where we're going today, is the foundation of a successful educational institution. And what I've asked you on the first real slide is, what are the greatest concerns in education in your opinion? And I've listed a few things. And so what I was curious about is to what maybe top 3 you felt were the greatest concern for you and maybe why. Just something quick.
I think lack of support from home.
Lack of support from home. External?
Yes.
Okay.
I think without the external support, we're beating our heads against the wall.
Okay.
I think communication among personnel. I think that if we had more communication, then students would transition better from grade to grade.
Communication between who?
The different grade levels.
Okay.
The amount of material we have to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And the clarification of exactly what it is they're looking for, how in-depth it needs to be.
Yes, which I think goes right into teacher roles and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a clear definition of that.
Do you think that we maybe have too many?
Yes.
Roles and responsibilities and all accountability is on teachers to perform and not as much on students to perform.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Do you think that maybe folds back into student behavior?
Well, students aren't accountable. We just, it's chance after chance after chance, and there's never anything put into place to make it better.
And the teachers are accountable if the students aren't given 100 chances. Yes, agreed.
We talked about a little bit of support from the external sources, but what external sources do you think would be most beneficial? Particular external, do you think it's corporations, businesses, industry in this area, support there, or do you think it is parental?
I think parental.
That's lacking? I'm sorry.
I say parental.
Okay.
That goes back to giving them 100 chances. If the parents hold them accountable too, then the behavior changes.
You talking in support to us? I think admin too.
Yeah.
I don't think that support is there
Okay,
within the school system.
so that's your internal support is within your leadership teams.
Yeah, I mean, that has to come, that and parents has to come long before businesses.
Okay. What about, I was interested in data collection. Does data collection bother you? It goes kind of in with the use of technology and teacher accountability roles and responsibilities, but does the actual data collecting bother you? Do you find it helpful?
Not if there's a purpose for it and that purpose is shown over time and not just thrown to the wayside.
I don't mind collecting the data for myself, but I don't think comparing it to another teacher, even though they're considered to be a CP teacher like I am, like comparing 9th grade CP to my 10th, 11th, wannabe 12th grade CP is a huge difference. You can't compare that. And yet it is. And then what can I do to make it like theirs? Well,
It should just be used for a teaching tool for you.
Yes.
To know where they need to go and what you need to teach and what you need to focus on is the way it should be used, I think.
well, that's. And I can see if I'm comparing it to someone else who teaches 9th, 10th, or 10th, 11th, and want to be 12th graders, but not someone who's teaching 9th grade, same subject. That 2-year gap, there's a huge difference in ability level.
So yours kind of fits under the common assessment standards and instructions that apply to all students, regardless of their academic level or even age range. That it has to be modified, it has to be adjusted.
Yeah, because I have inclusion. I mean, half of my kids are IEPs.
It has to be, right?
So you can't do that the same than a true CP class in 9th grade that has none of that. And then compare them.
Okay. So let's go back. What do you think are the top 3? If we were going to fix, or start a fix in our own personal work environment, what do you feel like is the first place to start, most critical?
Communication among personnel. If you don't have communication, then none of the rest of it works.
It's like we were talking about this morning. If the whole staff is not working as a team, then the students are the ones who suffer. It's not us. It's the students who suffer. They're the ones that get left behind, so to speak.
So the data collection is going to be faltered. There would be no need to plan if we don't have a common goal necessarily. We just put up something willy-nilly, which again still makes us accountable if data is still being collected. The use of technology and instruction, I'm wondering how, after a year, in comparison, whether or not it will show increase or decrease in academic ability after we use technology for pretty solid instruction now.
I think that goes to the subject. I mean, it's harder to incorporate a computer in math.
Agree.
I mean, it's just not a feasible thing to do.
Okay. So communication among personnel, would we agree that if we have no communication, then the lack of support from external and internal including our leadership teams? So that could be 1 or 2 together. And there are so many, I think, that could probably go for a 3rd.
Well, if you get the first 2, I think it will take care of a lot of the student behavior. It will take care of a lot of the planning because you're able to do and know where you're going because of the communication and because of the support. It's like it takes away a whole lot of that.
I agree.
As an issue.
Let me move you to the next slide and see what you think. All right, I also determined from the various components of the graduate study that communication is one of the greatest things that can make or break a school system, which is seems like a very easy fix, but it's a very serious problem when you experience it. So I put layer one, and that was the determining the what. In the community, what is the greatest need that can be met by the educational system? I was thinking about the corporations. I was thinking about industry like Freightliner or Nestle or other jobs that want students to learn particular types of skills. And are we communicating those skills with the educational system so that they can serve the area better? And what is the best way to serve the community's academic desires, skills required, and what is it that they want? Um, in respect to achieving a higher educational goal for their children? What resources and support are available to meet the educational needs of the community? If we're teaching the wrong types of things, and children that live in poverty are going to stay in a particular area, because if data shows that, then shouldn't we train them to be able to be successful in the community in which they live?
And not holding them accountable is not going to make them successful after high school.
What are they going to do in the workforce?
There's not a job that's not going to hold them accountable for jobs that need to be done.
That's true.
So I think in that way, we're failing them a little bit.
Right.
And the community.
We'll go to the next. And the layer two is the determine the how. And that comes from what Holly said a while ago about the support of external sources. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the industry, but just the partnership in general, about how important is it that we have parents who are involved, positively involved in the school system. How will support and community partnerships aid in developing the goals, the visions, and the plans toward educational success? We have to include them on what is it that needs to be taught so that they have an understanding of where we're going with it also. How will corporate partnerships build curriculum if they're teaching us the skills that they desire or they see are not being developed in the high school level? Then communication with those people will help us to be able to develop them. How do we acquire the right support and partnerships for our educational environment? And what exactly is the right support? Is it just money? Is it monetary? Is it financial? Or do we need other types of support also? The third layer is determining the who, and this one is probably one of the biggest priorities for me, is we need to make sure that we hire the right types of people. And in an event that we are hiring the right types of people, how in the world do we retain them? Because teachers walking out the doors because of a deficiency such as communication, what happens to the student? What happens to the learner? How do we retain the right types of people? I think it's pretty serious among the state. I was listening on the radio today about how new teachers are having concerns about education, but my concern is what's happening with the novice teachers and the experienced teachers when they just don't find that they're being listened to any longer. They are not empowered any longer. How do we retain our good people? The fourth layer of the component are the participants. You said student accountability was one of the biggest concerns you had. So I put the determining the you. Establishing organized rules, policies, guidelines, and norms will provide educational stability. Again, it has to come from communication. We have to communicate our own goals. Education based on respect, honesty, and communication result in goal attainment and achievement. A genuine desire to learn, progress, and excel is how to determine what you will achieve from the educational experience. I'm not certain if they understand that they are, in fact, responsible for their own learning. It's not the teacher's responsibility. But in the event that they felt more valued, it would become an easier task between student and teacher. And this is kind of a summation, and I just put the key to success in our educational system is communication. And here we go. Sorry, I have something on my computer. That each player is present there, and each time that we communicate at each one of these levels, then we are in fact accomplishing all of the concerns that we had from the very beginning. I think there were maybe 8 there at the beginning, that if we heal communication, rebuild that area, then we can solve a good many of our problems, including academic ability and opportunities. What do y'all think?
I think the biggest problem we've seen so far is nobody's on the same page. I mean, as far as accountability, what we say is accountable in the classroom, I mean, that goes away when they talk to somebody else and they know that it's okay. I don't have to listen to the teachers. I can go somewhere else and get her what she says just taken out of the picture.
So it's consistency.
Yes.
Well, and knowing, I mean, how many days can you miss and fail this class? You know, I tell them it's 8, and then yet they can miss 15 and still pass.
And how many days do I have to make it up?
Yeah, I mean, nothing is completely communicated and then stuck to once it's communicated.
And that's a huge barrier between us, I believe.
Well, it makes you feel like you're not important as the teacher because you're kind of left out of the loop. And a lot of times the kids know more than you know because it's not communicated to you and then stuck with whatever they say. It changes.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so my objective with this project and actually all 5 semesters that I have been working was this in mind. How exactly is it that I myself can make a lasting change? And the people that are in this room, in this group that I've asked, I believe the mission for each one of you is the same thing, that you are teachers because you want to make a lasting change. So in kind of conclusion, making a lasting change, bridging the communication gaps between community, educational professionals, and other external stakeholders will allow academic success to exceed expectations. The concept seems simple and the product beneficial, but are we ready to make a lasting change? And the very last slide, even though that's conclusion, I did want you to be able to see the benefit of good communication in a sound educational environment. That communication is able to effective causes organization in the environment where the educator and the student are both equally involved in their own process. Students are learning more, they're involved more. It's the same with teacher. They feel more empowered, valued, and they will get involved in more non-instructional opportunities without it being something that, like say if you're on a committee and it requires a Saturday afternoon, and how many times have you had a committee where people don't show up, and then the load is on you to do. But if we felt more camaraderie, if the communication was positive, it can't always be positive, but at least effective, and the attempt is positive, then we could do massive things to make forever changes for ourselves. We would be happier, and I think the students would find the school system and academic opportunities a little bit more of something that they can live with, something that is not just a process, but it's something they like to do. That's kind of the idea, is to improve and bridge the gaps that we are experiencing with communication. Whether or not technology is the way to heal and to rebuild what has been lost, or are there other ways in which to do it? Are y'all good?
Good.
I thank you so very much for participating with me. I'm going to end this slide real quick. And do you have any questions?
I was gonna say with the community support, like we found some old documents from Renaissance, and the amount of money that they used to take in from the outside community was like tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Where now you're doing good to get 2,000 from everybody, from what I see coming in, and having to do VIP in here. We can't even do what we used to do, $1,000 every VIP drawing, because they don't have enough money to support that scholarship they do.
What do you think has happened? Just
I don't know if back then the corporations were more locally owned kind of thing, where they had more They can put their resources in
Uh-huh.
the the schools, local. and now maybe they're not. I don't know. I really don't know.
Hey, Creeper.
Because I know, I don't know. I know letters are sent out to businesses.
Times were better too.
Yeah, and that may be what,
Do
scared
you think
people.
their resources are spread out more though?
You've got more asking, and it's nickel and diming them to death for these different little pieces,
I think that more, and that's kind of one of the things that I considered in the data pieces, is more better.
Right.
Are we doing too much, such as with technology? We communicate in, I know myself, I communicate daily assignments in 4 ways. I communicate verbally.
Mhm.
I communicate it within writing. I send it to them by text message on Remind, and then I put it on Canvas. So
Mhm.
it's been published in 4 different ways. And the idea is that if one person doesn't hear it, then they see it in another way. So maybe I'm getting further, but is that making us weaker?
I think it is. I think it is.
I'm wondering if technology is the best way to heal communication and that organizational piece, that external support. Is that something that is hindering us, or is it something that is helping us, but we just got to figure out a way to get it done?
Well, not only that, how many businesses do you think are going to tell you 4 different ways to do your job?
Mhm.
That is a true fact.
I
Come
mean,
up, look you in the face, tell you what to do, and that's it.
and that's it. And yeah, you have to remember this is what they told me to do, and I have to do it. And this is how they told me to do it, or I'm out of a job. So I think a lot of it is we baby these kids way too much.
Way too much, yeah. The real world's not like that. And that's what I keep telling them.
That's why some of them have already been through 4 and 5 jobs and they're 17. Because they can't do.
So the expectations that the real world has for them are not being met in the educational environment, which isn't that essentially what we're supposed charged with to do, is to teach them skills, whether it be math or science or English or history, whatever it is. Aren't we charged with providing them avenues to learn so that they can be productive members of society?
But are we truly teaching them what society needs to know? I mean, we don't teach them how to write in cursive anymore. We don't teach them how to balance a checkbook or a credit card or interest or how to pay bills and manage money and
World skills.
normal everyday thing, how to read a ruler.
How to read a clock.
Yeah, how to read a clock. Yeah, I mean, these kids can't do nothing. that is outside of it because it's not in your standards. Because my standards say I'm supposed to teach them stuff that most of mine are never going to use again.
I think we're crippling them.
So common standards, maybe something.
Well, even common, but real life standards. I mean,
How do you function outside of high school?
yeah. And not every child is college bound. And even some of this, they learn in college, so they don't have to learn it in high school. Just like my kid don't have to learn what X is a variable in elementary school, but he is. Why does he need that? He needs to multiply, he needs to divide, he needs to know decimals, he needs to know fractions. Not what X is as a variable. But it's like they push it all down. And then they don't really learn any of it. That's why half our kids can't multiply and can't read and can't
Or
add.
not without a calculator.
Not without a calculator. They can't do any of it, or their fingers or whatever. And none of them know how to write in cursive or read it. And that's only going to get worse because they don't even teach that in elementary school anymore.
We're taking away their life skills.
Or standard.
She's right. We're taking away life skills. Ways to function in everyday life outside of school. Taking that away from them.
I think this is great.
We were just talking about how cursive writing came back in the elementary level. The state only funded it for about 2 years, and now it's up to the schools. And of course, the schools don't have the money to buy the resources. So it's gone.
And what does that do? I mean, that's a part, your signature is a part of who you are. It's your, it's
Priorities.
your mark.
Part of your identity, yeah.
Yeah, it's a part of your identity.
Gonna go back to how when I worked at the grocery store when I was 16, and you'd have those really old people that would sign their check with the X, and you'd have to fill out the rest of it for them.
And are we there? You know, are we there that technology is going to take care of it, and we can't sign our name, we can't communicate because if we can't type it behind the screen, protected screen, we're not going to definitely not going to say it. Is it creating some emotional anxieties to where people can't communicate with one another because they're too nervous or too scared or too angry?
Well, they can't put it down.
Yeah.
It's like an addiction.
I mean, it's constant.
They come unglued if it's not close. I mean, that to me, what in the world would they have done if they had to go to the payphone?
They laugh if they see
Or to
one.
the courthouse, because you can't take a cell phone in the courthouse. So you got to spend a few hours there, it'd be going through withdrawals.
That was awesome. And I told you I wouldn't keep you very long, and I appreciate you listening to the proposal. And maybe at some point we would be able to share our thoughts with some form of administration or a school improvement council to be able to work on some of the revealing of things that we know are deficient here and could add to the happiness of both teacher, professional, and the student. I thank you very much, ladies. I'm going to stop us.